Hello and welcome to our Student Experience webinar series. My name is Akib and I work as the Senior Marketing Officer at the College of Science and College of Health and Medicine. I will be your host for today's webinar. But before we start the webinar, I would like to introduce you to our panelists today. So we have Ivo and Edmund, who are both doing PhD in mathematics. So today they're here to share their insights and experience and to answer any questions that you may have. So let's get started. Hi, Ivo and Edmund.
Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us today. Before we start off, can you tell us about yourself, your background, and how you progressed into this exciting field of mathematics? Ivo, can you start?
Sure. So I did my undergraduate in engineering about a decade ago. For a while, I was working as an engineer, and then I was in management. And then actually I did a graduate diploma in economics, and followed by a graduate diploma in maths, planning to do further study in economics. But while I was doing that, I realized that actually maths is the most interesting thing there is. And so I wanted to do further study in that. And then I quit working and went back to full-time study, and I did a Master of Mathematical Sciences Advanced at ANU. And then actually I started a PhD at the University of Oregon, but I had to move home for family reasons. And then I started a PhD at the ANU.
Wow, that's a lot of qualifications. How did you manage to study so much?
Well, I'm,
And
pretty old now.
What did ultimately lead you to pick up this one subject that was mathematics?
It's just really beautiful.
That's
Yeah.
what all mathematicians say.
Because it's true.
Right. So Edmund, what's your story?
Yeah. Okay. So I don't think my story is as interesting as Evo for sure, but yeah, I started my Bachelor of Science at the ANU as well. Probably I don't know, about six years ago for now. And I don't think math was really my first choice when I just started uni. Like that's the reason why I really just picked Bachelor of Science, just so that I can really try out all the different sciences. Like, I know I wanted to do something that was mathematically inclined, but not really pure mathematics, which is what I'm currently doing now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I was basically just doing all the different courses. Like I was doing some economics courses in my first year. Probably most of my courses was economics during that time, and some computer science, some statistics, and some mathematics. And well, mathematics was the one that won, I guess. Like it was the one that actually, like I found the beauty in mathematics, where I see different ideas that people come up with mathematical structures and the different ideas to approach a problem, different, proofs and so on and so forth. So yeah, and I decided to stay with mathematics.
Great. What a wonderful story you both. So are you originally from Australia? Are you originally from Canberra especially?
No. So I'm from Malaysia. So I've been living here for the past 6-7 years now. But yeah, I'm from Malaysia, and I'm from Penang, Malaysia, if anyone knows.
Oh, Penang, yes. We know the Penang curry and the
which is famous for
quite
food.
popular.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And how are you liking? How did you like Canberra when you first got in here? What was the experience?
Well, I'll be very frank and say that when I first got here, I wasn't a big fan. I coming from Penang, which is still considerably a big city in the sense that it's still very busy. There's jams everywhere, so everything that you would expect from a hustle and bustle of city.
Yeah.
But after a while, I kind of think it grows on you. Like it's a very nice place to live. Like I really enjoy how calm and quiet most of the time it is. I really enjoy not needing to be on the traffic for like half an hour just to get to somewhere. And Canberra is very flat. I usually just ride on my bicycle around everywhere, and it's very easy to ride around. Unlike maybe if you're in Sydney or something where there's like hills and every like all the places. So I think it's very, I really enjoy it, and I think Canberra has grown a lot in terms of food as well. Like I'm from Penang. Food is like big part of my life, and yeah, Canberra has done very well for the past few years. So So yeah, I think it really does grow on you.
I'm from mining Western Australia. I grew up in Port Hedland and Kalgoorlie,
Oh, wow.
and then I was in Perth for a decade after I started uni. And uh, I will say unequivocally, Canberra is the best city in Australia. I have very strong feelings about this. I love Canberra. It's great. You have all the amenities of a big city,
Yeah.
but it's very green. You only have to drive for 15 minutes at most to get to the bush.
Yeah.
There's a great art scene. I like the weather, although I know that some people think it's too cold. It's very beautiful. Great people. I love Canberra. It's great.
That's great. And do you think the city has helped you focus a lot towards while you were studying, while you are studying now?
I think it does. Yeah. If just because there are great places to get coffee.
Oh yes, that too. Yeah, Canberra definitely has like one of the best coffees around Australia, or maybe even the world. I would say. I don't know.
Yeah, certainly. I think I can, yeah, I definitely would agree on that. So I lived in Sydney for a couple of years before that and moved to Canberra. So coffee is something that I really, really love in Canberra. You just can't go wrong with the coffee here.
Yeah, I agree.
You guys have the one of the most beautiful buildings on campus as well, which was recently renovated, and it is so aesthetically designed. And I've heard a lot of some hidden secrets which are in the building. So is that true? Are there any secrets in the building?
So in the in the fire escape on the mathematics side, there is some chalk graffiti of one is of the Hopf vibration and the other is of a pair of mutant knots. Also, when the building was built, the top floor is houses some part of the Australian Signals Directorate, and they designed some codes which are in both on the exterior of the building and in the on some of the decor on the walls. And there's a puzzle on each level, I'm told. Although I haven't personally tried to crack them. I know that the first one is in ASCII, but I don't know anything about any of the others.
Right. So Ivo, you were also featured in one of the Blackboard stories last year. So what is that story all about?
Yeah, this weirdly blew up in Canberra a bit. So I guess the point is just that some of us, not all mathematicians, but some mathematicians have very strong feelings about blackboards and chalk.
Yeah.
Before we were in the new Hannah Neumann building, we were in probably the oldest and well, not the oldest, but definitely the worst building on campus. And the blackboards in there were awful. And when I came back from the US, I complained to one of the professors about the chalk that we had because it was not very good. And he actually had his own stash of good Hagoromo chalk. And so what we did was we took a piece of chalk from the regular university suppliers and a piece from his stash. And then we destruction tested them by writing the same thing on two separate boards to see how quickly it went. And we decided that, we concluded that actually, if you take into account the distance you could write per dollar, it worked out to the same to just buy the good chalk. And then after we did that, now the department only buys Hagoromo chalk.
Wow. That's an interesting story.
But blackboards in general are like part of the mathematical heritage, and there's just something romantic about them.
Do you still love using the blackboards? Are you still
Very much so. Yes. Yeah. I like it over the break, right up in over the break. Over the Christmas break, I endeavored to fill as many of them as I could while no one else was using them. And I got about halfway through the building.
Wow. Yeah. So in the field of mathematics, and especially the where we are at the moment, the ANU. So can you recall some of the most promising projects or promising research that's currently going on in the field of mathematics? Maybe it could be your area or related to Edmund's area of expertise. Any of the projects.
Um, well, I mean, part of building this new building, which is about on the first four floors is about 2/3 of the space is mathematics and 1/3 of the space is for computer science, and then the top floor is the Australian Signals Directorate. Part of the point of building this building was that to set everything up, so we now have this like 15-year research agreement between ASD, the Mathematical Sciences Institute, and computer science to work on 4 really big projects. There's some machine learning stuff in there, some natural language processing, and like also some like number theory stuff. No, that's not my area, so I don't know much about it.
Yeah, that's really cool. 15 years, that's a long time.
Yeah, that's probably a long-term goal. So.
So, Edmund, you have a bachelor degree from ANU, which I got to know quite recently. So while you studied your bachelor's degree, how did you decide, like, when was it that you fell in love with mathematics? And when was it that you decided that you have to study, further and get into research?
Yeah, so I think for me, it really took me a while to decide that I was going into like the research field. So I started off, as I said, doing random courses in my first year, which I actually finished all of my electives just by my first year. And then after my first year, I've decided that, okay, I think I'm more interested in computer science and also mathematics. So I decided to do a double major. And slowly I filter out like, the possibilities of, either common science or mathematics. And then I realized that, well, I was much more interested in mathematics compared to common science. That's why I continued, and I decided to do my honors in mathematics. And that was what really got me. So once I did my honors in mathematics, I knew that, okay, I think this is probably the thing that I'm going to do for my whole life, because it's very interesting. It keeps me up at night, which, some people might say is a bad thing, but, I find it interesting. And yeah, I don't think I found any other subjects that kept me interested for the past, 6-7 years by now. So yeah, and I think one of the reasons that I really enjoyed doing research here was that I found the supervisors and lecturers in ANU to be very engaging, and they're very helpful in the sense that they are always willing to talk to you about what's going on in the research field. And if you have any interesting questions, you can always just talk to them, and they're willing to talk to you, just chat to you about mathematics or whatever that you like to talk about. And I think that really helped me to decide that I want to get into this field.
Right, that's really interesting. So you got into PhD straight after your bachelor degree. How did that happen?
Yeah, so I think in general for Australia, I think once you've done your honors, and if you actually got a first class honors, you can always apply for a PhD straight away. And doing an honors is really quite similar to doing a master's, except that it's more like a 1-year intensive program where you also write a thesis, which is about the same length as the master thesis one. And yeah, so once you've done an honors, I would say that, and you've done well in the sense that you've got a first class, then I would say most of the university would be willing to accept you into the program.
Wow, that's quite unusual for some parts of the world, though.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is quite unique.
Yeah. And I don't think it's just Australia. Like I have friends who've done honors here, and then places like America and the UK, they would accept your honors as a master equivalent and accept you into PhD programs.
That's good to know. So ANU we also offer the Master of Mathematical Science Advanced program. Can you explain a bit about the course structure and what are some of the skills that a student could gain from this program? So it's an open question. It's for you, Edmund, or for Ivo to answer. Um, yeah.
So in terms of course structure, uh, in terms of getting in, generally, it's you need to have done 8 units or courses or whatever it's called at your university and achieve the equivalent of 70% average across those sort of sufficiently mathematical courses. In terms of structure, it's sort of 12 courses plus 6 months, plus a 6-month research project. Although generally you do like a year long, you do the research project as a year-long thing. Yeah. So it's 4 courses worth of research, basically. Because I did it largely because I didn't do my undergrad in mathematics, and so it was like a replacement for honors for me, basically. It's a very flexible course in that, well, I did like very, very like pure mathematics focused things. John Urbis, who's the convener for the course, sort of gets, as long as he will sign off on a course, you can do that course and count it towards the masters. Right. And he'll sign off on any course that has sort of has a sufficient amount of mathematical content in it. So you could do a focus on mathematical biology, or on finance, or on like physics-based courses, and still have those count towards the Master of Mathematical Sciences Advanced. The research project, similarly, it's fairly common for people who are interested in doing something like that with a focus to application. It's common for them to have a supervisor in the maths department and a supervisor in, say, the Fenner School of Environment or in the College of Business and Economics, for instance.
Okay, so for example, if a student like you who's done an engineering degree and is really interested in mathematics, if they start off with this program, do they still get that foundational elements from this program in the first year or the first semester?
Yes, I got some credit for my graduate diploma in mathematics. Right. I think I got 2 or 3 courses. It's been a while. I'm not exactly sure. So you can get some credit for that and start a bit further ahead in the program. Yeah. I personally say that I didn't really learn any mathematics until after I was very far past my undergrad in engineering, because I have strong opinions about what counts as maths and what doesn't. And memorizing how to do some calculus problems does not constitute mathematics.
Yeah. So you're just saying that it's actually a very flexible program. Students from different disciplines can do it, and also if the student is interested in, say, financial mathematics or biological mathematics, it would be a very good program to look at.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also a good program if, like, if you had done an undergrad in something, and then you wanted more mathematical background before doing a PhD, you could do this with a focus on that application and then do a PhD in that thing.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Right. Like if you did an undergrad in biology and then you did the master's in maths with a focus on mathematical biology, then I think you would be very well equipped to do a PhD in biology, for instance.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. So does this also lead to a pathway into PhD, the master's program?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's very, I don't want to say easy. I mean, you need to work and do reasonably well. But it's definitely a good way to get into doing a PhD. It's also a good way to, if you're interested in doing a PhD in maths at ANU, because similarly for honors, but because there's research component. If you do the research component and then you're like, oh, the person I did my thesis with is a good supervisor, then they can be a natural fit to do your PhD with, because you already know what the working relationship with them is like. And that can be, that's one of the hardest things to know in advance with a PhD. And one of the sort of most important things is what your working relationship with your supervisor is like.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really that's some really good insight, Ivo. Thanks for that. So Edmund, as you've been a student,
Yeah, I also like to add into the
oh yeah,
courses
absolutely.
thing. So yeah, so I think in mathematics, if you go into like the programs and courses in ANU, you will see one of the topics which is called special topics in mathematics, and that might seem weird because it doesn't really say what they're going to teach you, but that basically includes all of the possible courses that you can talk to someone in the department and they're willing to take you through it. And we usually call them reading courses. It could also be just you going through a textbook and meeting up with a lecturer every once or twice per week, going through the materials that you actually want to go through. So I think this is what makes ANU really different from many other universities that I know of, which is they really offer you very specific courses which you are interested in, just because the math department here is relatively small in size, which means that they can be a little bit more flexible in terms of the courses that they're going to be offering you.
Yeah, this is a really good point. The special topics courses are one of the reasons that ANU is, in my opinion, the best place, definitely one of the best places to study maths in Australia. You can almost any mathematical topic that you want to study, you will be able to get you will be able to convince one of the academics to run a special topics course for you on that topic. Also, there's a lot to be said, sort of more generally from like a educational perspective. There's a lot to be said about the strength of the cohort that you interact with, and even the undergrads in the maths department at ANU get a lot further mathematically than people at comparable universities in Australia. So, for example, lots of undergrads in the maths department here are taking algebraic topology as a second year course. At the University of Sydney, you have to be a fourth year. At the University of Melbourne, you actually can't take it as an undergrad. And most universities in Australia, they just don't have an algebraic topology course.
Right. Oh, that's really good to know. Edmund, I would get you to answer this. So, as you've been a student who's done a bachelor's degree here and also doing a PhD, can you name some of the support services that are offered to postgrad students? It could be any societies at a school level or at an ANU-wide level.
So what I personally found really helpful was one of the events that was run by PASA, which is the Postgrad Students Association. It is called the Shut Up and Write session. Basically, they feed you and you write your thesis. And I don't think I need to explain more than that, right? You get free food plus you get a place where everyone is quiet typing up their thesis, and I think that will really force you into the mood of writing up whatever you want. So that was very helpful. And obviously, PASA also runs like different events to socialize, so on and so forth. The math department itself, every Thursday, I think, well, before the pandemic happened, every Thursday we'll have a afternoon tea session where everyone, students, academics will join. Every Friday after 5, we'll go to the bar and have a drink. University-wide support, I think counseling is definitely one of the main things that I'll mention here. You can definitely, if you do need help with anything, I think going to the counseling is very helpful. You can book in for the 15-minute session on the day itself, or you can also make bookings for further sessions for 1 hour, which that one you'll need to actually pre-book. Other than that, I think for the PhD structure in particular, you actually get 2 more supervisors other than your main supervisor. And they are basically the people that you can also talk to other than your supervisor, and also the people that you can talk to in case you have any problems with your main supervisor, for example. Fingers crossed it doesn't happen, but when that happens, I think these really does help. And I think for the master, both for both the master and the PhD structure, there's also this thing called the milestone completion, which basically is a checklist for you and your supervisor that everything is going well. And I think that is also very helpful, because when you're doing research in particular, sometimes it really just boils down to you and your supervisor talking about stuff. And without this checklist, sometimes things could go wrong, in the sense that you don't even know that you're not actually doing well, and your supervisor is not checking on you often enough. But this structure, which is having this checklist, really does help with making sure that everyone's on the same page with everything.
Right. I think that's really good to know, Edmund. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I'll just remind everyone watching the webinar to just start posting the questions in the question and answer tab, and we'll get to your questions shortly. So one of the other things about your building is the facilities that it offers to the students. So what are some of the best facilities that you have at your mathematics department?
Yeah, I personally really like the fact that we have a shower, meaning if you ride into uni and you get sweaty and all, you can take a shower there and get changed into proper attires if you want to.
Right.
I think most of the cookwares in the math building is, being a new building itself, it's very new and very useful. I use the microwave there very often. There is also a coffee machine which is shared between the comp science department and the math department, and it's free.
Two coffee machines now.
Oh, and 2 coffee machines now. Well, I'm not updated apparently, but yeah.
This is very important.
Yeah. Oh, and also adding into Evo's point of blackboards, yes, we have tons of blackboards. Still not enough, I would say, but yes, we do have quite a lot of blackboards.
That's wonderful. And also the study spaces, right? So we've got a lot of study spaces for students to break into groups and do the studies.
Oh, it should also be mentioned that, like, if you're doing the Master of Mathematical Sciences, when you start the thesis part of it, you will get a desk in the building, and the desks are all
and also a computer to add on to that. Yep.
And the desks are all very nice, like sit stand desks, button operated.
Yeah, and I think there are also tons of study spaces where you can really just access with your card, go in and discuss mathematics with blackboards or whiteboards, depending on which rooms you choose. So.
Oh, right. Yeah. So you get to choose if you want a whiteboard or a blackboard.
Yeah, you do get to choose. So like Evo said, not everyone loves blackboard, but we still got to think about other people for a while.
Great. So we've got a couple of questions from the participants. So one of the first questions is, does learning mathematics require talent, or can anybody study mathematics?
So I have pretty strong feelings about this. Learning mathematics doesn't require any special talent, although that can help you at the start. Anybody can study mathematics, but learning mathematics it takes some investment. Like, you have to be willing to work hard, and you also have to work smart. Like, it's very easy to work hard and not get anywhere. And that generally boils down to the problem of people not focusing on understanding.
Yeah. Totally. So the next question, what sort of science-based jobs can mathematics get you into? I know you both are from pure mathematics, but you can definitely draw on experiences from your other colleagues who are in maybe applied mathematics. Yeah.
So I have a friend who also did a master program in ANU, who did his PhD in Queensland in bioinformatics, and is currently working for a genetic company. So I would say that biomedical sciences currently, more specifically bioinformatics and quantitative biology, is currently growing really quickly, and they will definitely require more people with a good mathematical background, and especially if you are actually interested in biology, that is a very good pathway to take.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a lot of scope to do the kinds of courses that set you up well for data science type jobs. Say if you're doing the Master of Mathematical Sciences, then you can you'll be able to do a lot of the courses in computer science relating to machine learning.
Yeah.
And
financial mathematics could be one of the things.
There are also financial mathematics courses. In fact, I think the mathematics of finance course is actually taught by someone from the maths department.
Right.
This like Black-Scholes equation type course. Also, something that we have a fairly strong presence in here is there are quite a few academics here doing applied algebraic topology, which is a fairly new field. It's only like 20 years old, but that's sort of something that there are very few places in the world where you can seriously do applied algebraic topology.
Right. Great. So there is also a lot of applied math or computational math involved as well, as when you do a master's in mathematics.
Certainly, there are a lot of courses available for
pathway
that.
to PhD. So there are also other career opportunities that students can look at after doing the Masters of Mathematics. Great. And we have one last question, and it's for both of you guys. What do you want to do after you've completed your PhD?
Yeah, so I would say that I'm hoping to become an academic. So that's definitely my first choice. But I don't know who knows what's going to happen in the future, right? So I'm kind of still open open with my options. But for the time being, my aim is definitely to become an academic. Like I like teaching and also doing research, so I think it's a very good mix for me.
Yeah, I'm essentially the same, except that I have a very strong academia or bust type feeling because I already worked in industry and I like academia better.
Great. Sure. So we're almost towards the end of the session. So for everyone watching the webinar, if you have any further questions about making an application or knowing more about the admissions, please feel free to get in touch with us. You can email us on science@anu.edu.au. That's our email address. I will also send the email address on the chat, which I'm just typing. Yes, there you go. Yeah, so that's the end of the session for today. Thanks, Ivo and Edmund, for an informative session tonight. I think that was very, very helpful for all of us, including me. So good night and take care. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Keeb.
Thank you.
See ya.
Yeah.